Be honest, you don't like Super Saiyan Blue, do you? Compared to other forms, like Super Saiyans 1 or 4, it simply falls flat for you. In my opinion, Blue's certainly a form of all time, but I'm gonna try be unbiased as I critique its many aspects to finally answer the age-old question. Is Super Saiyan Blue really a bad form? Believe it or not, Super Saiyan Blue does have some positives, especially its debut. Now, ROF as a movie may not be the greatest, definitely the worst one in Super, but focusing on the form, I think it shines quite brightly here. Goku's the first to reveal his ascension to Frieza. No excessive screaming mid-transformation. I've said this before, but I love how the aura straight peels off him before unveiling his new hair. And the fact the peeling's done so calmly combined with that tranquil OST really captures the sheer majesty of Blue. This entrance highlights how different the god forms function to regular Super Saiyan, not fueled by anger but serenity instead. To this day, I'll never understand why the aura doesn't peel again. At least it would have cemented that divine sensation all throughout Super. Another subtlety is how when Goku achieves Blue, the terrain's left unscathed. In contrast to Frieza, who destroys the cliffside after turning gold, showcasing the juxtaposition between Blue's divine composure and the chaotic nature of a mortal form. Moving on from ROF, the manga executes Blue much better than the anime. The form suffers from an actual weakness, which should hopefully be weaved into the remake, that being Blue's energy overconsumption, limiting the time you have to fight at full power. Vegeta went through the thick of it. The prince couldn't release even a fraction of Blue's power against Hit, since he transformed too many times on the same day. This dilemma makes Blue much more intriguing, as the question on your mind would be, how do the Saiyans overcome this problem? There are some parallels with this and the Cell Saga, where a key aim was to surpass the Super Saiyan wall. A few ideas came to fruition, like grades 2 and 3, which focus on pure strength, but the solution that stuck was Super Saiyan grade 4, formulated by our hero in the time chamber. By adapting the form to their natural state, Goku and Gohan can fight without straining their bodies too heavily. Such problem solving also occurs in the DBS manga, where the Saiyans propose two solutions to their Blue dilemma. Vegeta's was the God Switch technique against Goku Black. As a balanced form, Super Saiyan God has better mobility than the form above it, but when the Prince goes in for a strike, he swiftly revs up to Blue at the very last moment, releasing its max power in short bursts, before reverting back to God. A big brain move if I do say so myself, but the more direct approach which yielded greater results was the full-on Master Blue, as showcased by Goku. Sealing its immense power within his bones proved to be difficult, but how a hero succeeded in fighting at Blue's 100%, actually on par with Fuse Zamasu. You can tell this method's effective when Vegeta chose to replicate his friend on Beerus' planet during the intro to the Tournament of Power. Blue had depth in the manga, which was sorely lacking in the anime, so I'm praying the remake takes some liberties to improve the form and give it the justice it deserves. That's mostly it for the positives, so now let's discuss what you clicked on the vid for, the negatives. When determining if a form's good or not, the first factor isn't its strength or the narrative behind it, but actually the design. If a character unveils one, of course it's got to look appealing on the eye, like that's the first thing the audience sees. In this scenario, we are judging a book by its cover. Why do you think people love Super Saiyan 4 even though they're mixed about GT itself? The form stands out from prior Super Saiyans, doing much more than a hair colour change. You've got red fur around the chest, the yellow eyes with the red eyeliner, and last but not least, the return of the Saiyan tail. All these features are precisely why Super Saiyan 4's the most memorable thing out the show, and how you even get non-GT fans putting this form in their top 5. As for Super Saiyan Blue, the main critique I see online is how the form's a cheap recolor of our beloved Super Saiyan. Honestly, that's fair enough. They've taken no creative liberties to make a blue pop out, but I'll ask you this, how else would you design it if its main shtick is being Super Saiyan stacked on top of God? Remember, Blue's original name was Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan. Thank the Lord it's not called that anymore. If we're bashing the colour choice of blue, sorry, but I'm actually a fan of it. God has the iconic fiery aura symbolic of a phoenix. They undergo the continuous cycle of rebirth, which fits perfectly for our Saiyans, who've gone through their own rebirth after reaching the realm of the gods. Also, guess what burns hotter than red flames? Roaring blue flames. I love how they continue the concept of fire by making blue stronger than God. My main issue with blue, however, is that the Saiyans look ugly in the form. And why is that? It's all because of a little thing called contrast. If we take a peep at them with their usual outfits, notice how they have so much blue on them already, from Goku's undershirt to Vegeta's attire behind the armor. Putting blue on top of blue looks so bland. Nothing stands out at all. Even Vegito, who I glaze more than Gogeta, seems visually uninspiring with how Goku's shirts are reversed, now with blue over the top. They try to salvage it by making the form look more Saiyan, but even that doesn't help with the alarming lack of contrast. One reason Super Saiyan looked amazing on Namek was because you can clearly distinguish that golden hair from Goku's usual undershirt. If the Saiyans use blue while it's daytime, however, the form and the outfits just blend in with the sky, especially Vegeta, so how could Super solve this issue? Well, the designers literally figured it out in ROF by giving Goku and Vegeta new outfits to wear. The former's attire only consists of an orange gi which complements blue so nicely in the movie, and Vegeta's clothes made by Bulma look even better. The contrasting grey almost turns blue when toggling on its aura. With how their clothes amazingly contrast with blue, it hurts to watch them revert back to the Cell Saga gis. Gis that look horrible with blue hair dye. New outfits during all of Super would have been a great differential from Z, symbolising a new era, but no. This show's whole shtick is nostalgia bait and inshallah. That's why innovation's much more memorable to the fanbase than a replication. Why do you think people love Ultra Instinct? Overall for design, blue itself doesn't look bad, but it's that the form doesn't contrast well with Goku and Vegeta's current designs. I'm still upset they went back on the original ROF outfits when it fits blue like a glove. The answer to the contrast problem had already been solved, but they instead thought nostalgia was the main priority. Anywho, let's discuss the next hot topic of blue, the wins. A lot of discourse with blue is the concerning lack of wins throughout Super. As you've seen by the montage, the form gets bodied quite a lot. Somehow a laser of all things convincingly put down blue Goku. That's the most outrageous example. But my overarching issue is that the form gets humbled by opponents that don't have a sniff of God Ki, when Blue's supposedly in an entire different plane of strength. To list a few, if we waddle back to ROF, it's mad to think Frieza with only 4 months of calisthenics can somehow overpower divine forms that took ages to acquire. As for the tournament, Jiren went ham on the puny god, ragdolling him around like the Hulk did to Loki, but in the same mark, I think the Universe 6 Saiyans did Blue much dirtier. Kale was first up, strolling right through a Kamehameha before choking Goku to death, and afterwards, when she merges with Caulifla, one single kick was plenty to knock Goku out from Blue Kaioken all the way down to base. The reason these last scenes are much more absurd is because the Saiyans were today years old when they learnt about Super Saiyan. How can I take Blue seriously when complete novices can topple divine power? With all these examples, Blue feels powerless against these opponents even though it should have gone the other direction with its holy divine stature. The fact I have to remind myself Blue's a god form means it's utterly failed to deliver its purpose across Super. Plus, replacing it with normal Super Saiyan in these instances means the performance would have been the same. Actually, that is the better outcome, because there's logic to why Super Saiyan gets rolled over whilst also continuing to respect the sanctity of Blue. For the Chaos scene, the whole point was to pay homage to Z Broly when he walked through it, so why did they feel the need to make Goku turn blue? They were doing just fine keeping him as a Super Saiyan, currently movie accurate, but now the scene's ruined by unnecessarily making Blue seem pathetic. If we're talking divine opponents, it doesn't get better. Black stole the Saiyans' lunch money every time they returned to the future. In base only, the deity launched a blue Vegeta across the field before impaling the guy's chest as a Super Saiyan Rose. What bugs me particularly is how there's no explanation for our Saiyans' blue forms being far inferior to Rose. I mean far inferior, as shown by the second trip. Black swats Vegeta away before styling on his son with a flip, and then somehow reads Goku like a manual, smacking him in the jaw. Furthermore, the god perfected his parries like it's Contest of Champions, knocks the prince into a skyscraper, and to top it all off, he does key P-ups with Trunks' body, ending the combo with a dual ultimate. Even when Blue gets the upper hand over Black, at the end of the day it amounts to zilch. Goku had a beautiful rage moment upon hearing the demise of Chi-Chi and Goten, but after landing some blows, the god looked squeaky clean and just one-shotted Goku with a divine lasso. Vegeta's the same. There's so much hype with the whole speech mid-beatdown, but once again, Blue had no long-lasting effects, while Black climbs higher, pestering our Saiyans with the clones he made from the scythe. The saddest part is that the Zamasus didn't fuse because they were getting overrun. Nope, it was just cause the Immortal One got too scared of the Mafuba. Funnily enough, if they didn't fuse, the Saiyans would have truly died, since their blue forms meant nothing compared to the ever so growing Goku Black. Now with said scythe in his possession, I much preferred them merging out of desperation in the manga, as Blue felt like a force to be reckoned with, pushing Black to the brink of death. After all this ranting, I'll remind you the form does have wins on its belt, such as Kaba and the Trio de Danger. However, in the grand scheme of Super, these dubs weigh as much as an atom. Second, Blue is just overkill against these minor opponents, where it's more so for stat padding. The result wouldn't change if they used Super Saiyan God or maybe even Super Saiyan 2. Summarizing the wins department, Blue's lost its stature, getting rinsed by both God Key and non-God Key enemies, more so the latter, and when it does beat people, the wins hold virtually no weight to the narrative, as you could replace it with lower forms and still easily get the job done. Anywho, let's move on to the final section of the vid. It's Overshadowing of Super Saiyan God. Arguably, this is the most damaging aspect of Blue. By introducing a new form straight after the last movie, it indicates to us fans that God's been placed on the shelf, never to see the light of day again. However, by also diluting Blue's divinity, as evidenced by the previous section, they've now inflicted a double whammy of damage to the God forms, where neither truly shine in Super's anime. If I was making executive decisions, Blue would not debut in ROF, allowing for God to make another stellar appearance. At least the audience wouldn't be confused by another form out the woodwork, and you can just scale down Golden Frieza, making his leap in power a bit more believable. The plot doesn't change if God Goku fights the Emperor, and then by the end of the movie, you can have Vegeta revealing his own God form to hype us up, since we never saw him do it in Battle of Gods. Second of all, This adds a layer of continuity to Super, where we're not scratching our heads confused why the prince hid the form until DBS Broly, or how he achieved it in the first place. Next, what also bugs me about God's Overshadowing is that it has way more gimmicks going for it than Blue does in the anime. If we compare them side by side, Blue only has the perfect ki control, which ties in greatly with the Kaioken. On the other hand, remember how God had a literal healing factor during its debut against Beerus? They could have maximized its usage during the fights, adding some extra flavor to Super's combat instead of always relying on Senzu beans to recover. This would have come in clutch during the tournament, helping our Saiyans endure the many battles without a break. Another great ability is how God's sheer aura halts enemies to a standstill, demonstrated sublimely when Goku tried to reason with Broly. It's a shame this move was only used once. Like going back to ROF, as Frieza's about to blow up the planet, imagine if Goku stopped him with the God Bind, allowing Vegeta to deal the finishing blow using a Big Bang attack. Firstly, my glorious prince gets to relish that feeling of avenging his race, and second, the Saiyans' teamwork would come full circle to what Beerus and Whis affirmed, about how if Goku and Vegeta fought together as a duo, then they'd be unstoppable. Abilities aside, Blue also undermines the themes of how Goku achieved God. During the movie, our hero expresses his sadness to Beerus about how he couldn't reach such holy power on his own. Becoming God relied on 5 other righteous Saiyans pouring their hearts into a 6th, but the reason these 5 exist to begin with is all thanks to Goku. At the end of the day, he deserved the transformation. By encouraging Vegeta to change his ways, our hero successfully brought about a righteous prince, along with the birth of Trunks, who played a decent role in his father's character arc. This whole theme of not being ashamed of relying on others gets thrown out the window when Blue comes round. Goku just gets it by training on Beerus' planet, which holds severely less narrative weight than God's introduction. To round it all off, Blue's a pretty bad form. Sure, there's upsides like its debut, but at the same time, the form sadly replaced the more promising Super Saiyan God. Even with all this spotlight, Blue failed to shine from both a design perspective and a fighting one. Our Saiyans' iconic outfits don't complement the blue hair, and frankly, the form's treated like a punching bag, lacking any substantial wins except Frieza. If I was in charge of the remake, I'm incorporating the manga's version of Blue, whilst also delaying its debut to the Universe 6 tournament. Some want this to happen during Goku's rage moment in the Goku Black arc, but personally, the form should embody that calm nature rather than emotion. An arc earlier still lets God shine in another movie without feeling overshadowed. Let me know how you would improve Super Saiyan Blue, and finally, thanks so much for watching the vid.